old person do you want to be? It's something I've been talking about a lot this week because I think it's just a really important topic that's not talked about enough. No one asks themselves the question, how do I want to be when I'm old? Yeah, they don't think about that. They just assume that being old means you're going to be in a wheelchair or struggling. And I don't think that needs to be the case. Like, you do see old people who are running, walking, all sorts, who are like in their 90s. Yeah, obviously you can't account for stuff like, arthritic conditions and other stuff like that, but you can minimize your chances of ending up in a very degenerative state by your actions now as a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old.
100%. I think we have this idea of what old looks like and that it's just a given. But if you can stay active, then old can look like something else. And like, there are studies in older populations, so people who continue to do activity through till their 70s, 80s, their muscles are still very similar to they were when they were younger. But also there's stuff that shows that even if you only start when you're 60, 70, you can still change what your muscles and what your bones are doing, and like really slow the degeneration down, but also you can still build muscle, and it doesn't even take that much work, which I think is kind of awesome. Like, I've seen studies where 70-year-olds were just doing 1 or 2 sets of something a week and were able to maintain muscle mass and stay strong enough to like still get out of a chair by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, especially if we look at our older people and think about what their mobility issues are like. Like, that's going to probably be genetic, a lot of it, which is actually one of the reasons that I started exercising in the first place. Just looking at my parents and being like, oh, I should probably start taking better care of myself. But also, like, if they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and they need you to give them your hand so they can stand out of a chair, or like they can't walk up steps without holding on to something, that is preventable, at least to a degree, but it does require you to practice making those shapes purposefully. So if you just think about what you want to be able to do and then do those things. So like, if you still want to be able to, like, I don't know, get out of a chair, practice squatting, or if you want to still be cycling 100 miles a week, practice cycling. You're going to be able to do whatever you consistently reinforce over time. And a lot of exercise is proven to reduce the risk in all sorts of things. So as well as in terms of like your mobility, which is super important, but also it reduces the risk of all sorts of chronic diseases. And that's not to say that doing exercise will stop you from having a stroke or stop you from having a heart attack, but it will reduce the chances. And that's kind of the best we've got. So you may as well.
Yeah, I think again, all super valid points. I think there's, I've always said there's 5 things that I think everyone should aim to be doing when they're old, and that is touch your toes, be able to get up out of a chair without help, be able to get up off the floor without help, be able to reach something from a high cupboard without help, and be able to walk at least 1 kilometer, i.e., be able to get around the shops. They're my five things to stick with, or to focus on, to be able to maintain throughout life. Now, I've actually got this really good graphic, if I can find it, from Public Health England. Now, it is actually really good. Just bear with me a second while I get it up. Cool. Can you see that?
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, cool. So this is actually excellent, and it basically shows you how important it is to start doing strength and balance and exercise when you're young. So the blue line here is your general life kind of peaks and deteriorations as you go through, if you don't do anything. So obviously it starts off the same, everyone progresses the same level in early life, so we're talking like probably 0 to kind of 20s, I guess, here, mid-teens, 20s, and then the first line is about 20, 25-ish, I think. but you see this big red band along the bottom that says disability threshold. Okay, really important band, and we'll come to that. So as we go, so basically we're talking here sort of 20s to 25 where we can build maximum bone density. The green line is people who exercise and do balance strength work. So that's what we'll be gaining there, muscle mass and bone density, which is super important. So if you're in that bracket and you haven't started training yet, start, because you can maximize your bone density now, and you won't be able to do much more after the age of about 30, I don't think, with that. So as we can see, this is where the blue line starts to split. Adult life, I would say, is probably like 20 to 50, let's say. And if you keep training your strength, you see how much this gap widens between people who don't train and people who do. So obviously here we're like maintaining muscle, we're building like good movement patterns, we're looking after our joints, all of these really important things, all the stuff that we talk about all the time. So actually we're going to deteriorate anyway, which is like an inevitable fact of life, but we deteriorate much significantly less by being strong and doing balance work and being mobile than we do if we don't do anything. So much so that actually in older life, when we're looking kind of 70 plus, we actually avoid this disability threshold by a really significant amount of time. So the difference there is between being disabled, i.e. requiring help constantly, falling, having to be in care, going to a care home earlier, or like having a heart attack, a stroke, something like that, versus not having that at all and being able to be like an active old person. And that all starts in early life. So this is actually a really good graphic to show that like whatever you do now is going to have a drastic impact. Like 1% change now is going to have a significant change by the time you're 70, 80, 90. If you want to look at it differently, think about like a journey on a boat. If you start in like, I don't know, let's say south coast of England, but your course is deviate by 1%, and you're aiming for Florida, one of you is going to end up at Florida and one of you is going to end up in like Canada by the time you get there. Like 1% of the start has a big impact down the line. So if you look at it like that, actually all of these health things at the bottom, like pregnancy, menopause, retirement, caring duties, fall risk, significant disease, hospitalization, all these things are significantly the risks are so much lower if we're strong, fit, mobile. And I think that is a really kind of powerful graphic actually to show that quite effectively.
Yeah, good find. I think it's important for people to see those things just because we don't often think about later, like it's this far, far away thing. But if we can take care of ourselves now, well, we'll just have a much easier time doing stuff, I think. And it doesn't need to be that much or that hard. Like if you're training for health and mobility and strength, it doesn't necessarily have to be really hard. Like you don't have to be beasting yourself all the time and training every day and doing 2-hour sessions and like eating your chicken and your broccoli, which I think is what people often think of when they think of fitness. Like this very one-dimensional version, which is because most of the time the only fitness people that get like airtime are often bodybuilders. So we get the bodybuilder story of what fitness looks like. But for most people, it doesn't need to be that.
Yeah,
it doesn't even
absolutely. I think. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I think it doesn't even need to be that hard. You just need to make sure that you're doing stuff and just think about the shapes that you want to be able to make. So if you focus on like the 5 movement patterns, it's hard to tell where the line is.
Yeah, I know.
So knee bending, hinging, pushing, pulling, and carrying. Like think about those 5 things. Those tell you what all of the shapes that you have to make in life are, and also what all of the shapes that you make in training are. And just make sure that you do them in whatever version that you want to do periodically throughout the week in varying intensities. And then also like walking/running. So then you're also doing some cardio or cycling or any kind of cardio really, just so that you're looking after your heart. That could also just be like having a dance party in your kitchen. That's actually programmed on one of my clients' training plans, daily dance partying. So you just have to find movement that you like doing, and yeah, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah, I think that's is really important. Yeah. So again, just to sum up, just because I think it probably is the most important thing we probably talked about today, really. Ask yourself the question, like, if you can't answer the question, go and have a look at your old people and several other old people, and just to have a look at the spectrum of people. Like, yeah, mine range from, they're all 90 now. One is, you know, losing a little bit of like mental capacity, but if you take him for a walk, he'll still be able to walk around all the fields for about an hour or so, absolutely fine. The other one really struggles to walk, but and as a result has had a few falls, a few hip replacements, which doesn't really help. So you can pick one. One's been active all his life, worked with his hands all the time, been super active. The one really hasn't been that active, So the proof is there if you look for it. There's a couple of really nice quotes that I actually quite like. One is just thinking about actually, the whole like tree one, if you've heard it before. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So, plant the tree, do the work now, do something. And the other one is it's a Chinese proverb that says you're as old as your spine, which is actually probably my favorite one. And it is really true if you think about it. Like, if you see someone from a distance and you see them walking, you can have a good guess at their age, generally speaking, by how they stand. Like, if they're really hunched over and they're not moving very well, you assume they were an old person. If they're walking quite tall, quite fluidly, you'd assume they were quite a young person. It's just quite an interesting thing to think about. So look after your back, people.
Like that.
And do the work. Okay, it doesn't have to be hard work either, just something regular. Like, it really isn't, like, you don't have to, like you said, bodybuilders and these fitness professionals do dominate the fitness industry in the sense of lean six packs everywhere and like high intensity workouts and stuff like that, which is fine, but that's the top percentile of what you actually require for optimal health. Like, just move well, move regularly, get out of breath sometimes, as a basic. Happy? Anything else to add?
No, I think that was good. Hopefully people were thinking about it.
Cool. Well, we will see.